בואי בשלום, עטרת בעלה, גם בלינה ובצהולה, תוך אמונה ים סגולה. בואי בשלום, בואי, בואי, בואי בשלום.
Hi, I'm here to join your celebration to tell you a little bit about the true story of the marriage of David and Miriam. I must admit it's all my fault. I was living up in Washington Heights while going to Columbia University. All rumors to the contrary notwithstanding, I was not learning in Kollel. And one evening I was in the Beis Medrash in Yeshiva University, making believe that I was learning a little bit. And we had a question, and we asked a young man who was sitting next to us by the name of David Shapiro, and he answered the question. I don't recall whether the answer was right or wrong, but I do remember being impressed with the fact that he seemed to have his head screwed on right, which is a quality that my sister needed in a husband. And furthermore, he seemed to have the courage to face the Inquisition that was sure to come from my father. As a matter of fact, there were boys who refused to go out with any of my sisters because of that Inquisition. Apparently, it was well known throughout the yeshiva world. And so I suggested that he might be a good victim. And it turns out that the very same week, my sister met a young lady who she felt had sufficient psychological fortitude to deal with the various emotional issues that are associated with all Dvoretsky siblings. And so it was that David and Miriam went out, and they went out again, and they went out again, and then they went out again, and we heard, it was only a rumor, but we heard that David had given Miriam a piece of jewelry, and that the jewelry was hidden in Miriam's drawer, and she refused to wear it. And they went out again, and they went out again, and finally Miriam had the courage, I guess, to say, at the very least, maybe, and they ended up getting married. Now, the wedding occurred on the day of a blizzard. Apparently God continued to warn David. I mean, here's a girl who wouldn't accept your jewelry. The wedding was on the day of a blizzard. I came from Washington Heights by train, so I had no problem. But there were people who came by horse and buggy. But David refused to heed the warnings of the Almighty, and so went on to his just rewards. There is one further very interesting detail relating to my involvement in this marriage. However, that detail although I'm sure you would love to hear, we'll have to go to the grave with me and David and Miriam. A happy anniversary. A Litvische Simcha. My father used to say that at Litvische weddings, when the Kala walked down, they sang Veint Kala Veint, which means cry, Kala, cry. And when the chassan walked down, they sang a song that said 3 times in a man's life they lead him down the aisle. Once at his bris, and once at his chasana, and once at his levaya, and it's already the 2nd time. A Litvische happy anniversary to all.
Hi, everybody. Hope you're having a great time. Jenny asked some of us to share some thoughts and memories, actually, from the dating period of Miriam and David and the wedding. And since Miriam and I at that point were living downstairs, and when I look back on now as an incredible arrangement, we had our gigantic bedroom, a living room, den, study, our own bathroom down there. It's a pretty good arrangement. Anyway, because we were living down there, I got to hear, and sometimes through a door, some of the things that were going on. I thought I'd share some memories with you. The first memory I want to share is the famous story of the necklace. Miriam, I know that you hate this story, but I think if you can't handle it after 50 years of marriage, then you're never going to be able to handle it. I think you'll be okay. David really liked Miriam, and it was getting quite serious, at least from David's end. And one night he presented her with this gorgeous locket that was gold, and it even had a little diamond, I think, in the center of the locket. I must have either seen it, I must have walked through the living room when this was happening downstairs, heard it through the door, but I knew all about the fact that he gave her this very important necklace. I probably heard her talking to her friends about it as well. Well, Miriam was not ready for this relationship, and she took the necklace and she put it in her drawer. My mother found out about the necklace, probably because me, with my little mouth, told her about it. But she wasn't wearing the necklace. It was in her drawer. I opened up the drawer every single day. I looked at it in there, waved to it. I loved David. I was so sad that she was like hurting him in this way and not wearing the necklace. Well, one day, Miriam actually put on the necklace. I think I came running upstairs and told my mother that Miriam was wearing the necklace. And my mother said, nobody's allowed to say anything. Nobody, don't even look at it. Don't say anything. She's wearing the necklace. Don't say anything. And I remember that we were talking to Miriam, but we were not allowed to mention the necklace, look at it. I guess at a certain point, Miriam got comfortable enough that we were able to actually mention the fact that she was wearing the necklace and the relationship was on to a new level. So here they are. I think she got past it. And that was the necklace story. The other thing I wanted to tell you about was that I really loved David, and they were engaged. I probably had a crush on him. I was in 7th grade. And there's nothing that I wouldn't do for him. Well, one day I was going ice skating to Prospect Park skating rink with my friends. Give me 1 second. There's a little prop for this. And I asked Miriam if I could borrow her Central jacket. She was out of high school at that point. So let me tell you why it was important to wear the Central jacket. Because if you put on the Central jacket when you went skating, even though you were in 7th grade, if you're wearing this jacket, well, boys would probably think that you weren't in 7th grade, that you were a little bit older. So I was very excited that Miriam said I could wear her jacket, and I put it on, and of course I was wearing what I always wore, which was a pair of pants and something comfortable to go skating. Well, David says to me, Abigail, Do you really think you should wear pants when you're wearing the central jacket and representing the school? Well, I was ready for anything at this point, and I said to him, you're right. And I quickly stopped. I ran, I changed, I put on a skirt. And David, do you know that that was the last time that I wore pants? So because of my great love and crush on David in seventh grade, and probably also ready for this next step in my life, David actually changed the trajectory, at least, of my clothing choices. And that's my second story. My third story brings us to the night of the wedding. As you know, Miriam and David got married in the dead of winter. And I'm sure you all know that that Sunday was a horrible, horrible snowstorm. Saturday night, we were all there. I think I wasn't even sleeping in my room. Maybe Ethel and Shalom were sleeping over, but whatever. There was my very calm mother being very out of character. She was getting up every now and then, walking around the house, looking out the window, and like, what are we going to do? Look at the snow. What's going to happen? And then I woke up and looked out the window, and everybody was sort of taking turns walking around. There was only one person who was not waking up, and that person was Miriam, the Kala. At a certain point, she must have heard us walking around, or my mother maybe even went downstairs to her. And she's like, what's going on, guys? What? And my mother said, look at it. Aren't you worried? It's snowing outside. And Miriam said, I don't care. I'm getting married tomorrow no matter what. Promptly went back to sleep, and we continued all pacing. Well, we're here at the 50th wedding anniversary. Snow and all, Miriam got married. As I recall, everybody came. It was a wonderful, wonderful wedding, and we did it. Miriam and David, Mazel Tov on your 50th wedding anniversary. Thank you for the impact you've had on all our lives. And what do we say? We're just thrilled for you, and we're thrilled for us that we have you as our precious sister and brother-in-law. Mazel Tov.
Hello, David and Miriam. Shalom Aleichem. As you know by this time, I was selected and asked to represent the Baltimore contingent in wishing you Mazel Tov on this very special occasion. So I represent Srali and Shua also. Chana obviously represents herself. Chana has always represented herself. Ich kann allein. You'll have to explain that to the other members of the gathering. Anyway, greetings to all of our cousins. I'd like to just share some of my memories of your chasana. First of all, the blizzard of '66. Imagine if we had not come in for Shabbos. I don't even want to think about the ramifications of that. According to Srali, Daddy's original plan was, in fact, to drive in Sunday morning, and for some reason that he doesn't remember, Daddy changed his mind and decided that we would go in for Shabbos. How fortunate was that? I believe that perhaps the whiskey for your simcha was brought in from Baltimore because Daddy would have gotten a good deal from the Perlman brothers at their pharmacy. The comparison between having a wedding in the middle of the winter, risking a snowstorm, versus having a wedding in June, as we did in Detroit, and we were going through a terrible heat wave at the time. Our chasana was in a shul that was privately owned by a certain rabbi in town. I think my father-in-law paid him not to come, but then had to call him to come and turn on the air conditioning. So, it's the flip of a coin, which way things are going to fall. Also, a lot of the guests from Baltimore, unfortunately, were snowed out. We won't go into all the names of the prominent people who would have wanted to be present. Okay. Your chasana was held at the Kingway Jewish Center, Kingsway.
Hello, Miriam and David. Mazal Tov. This is Toby Kaplowitz Brooks speaking to you from Columbia, Maryland. Wishing you really congratulations and Mazal Tov on your 50th anniversary. First, I want to start with you, David, and tell you that I forgive you. Yes, I forgive you for taking away my best girlfriend. Yeah, Miriam and I were like two peas in a pod. Toby and Miriam, Miriam and Toby, until David came along. But that's okay. So I do forgive you for that. Anyway, I'm trying to remember the day of your wedding. I do remember that I had a pink bridesmaid's dress, and that Miriam looked beautiful, and David looked handsome, and that it was snowing outside. And so interesting that this year, your 50th anniversary, it snowed as well here in New York and in Maryland. So you must have some kind of power or out there to have the same type of circumstances. So I just want to wish you the best, and I'm so happy that Miriam and I reconnected, and we're girlfriends once again. We speak almost once a month, and I'm so happy for both of you that my heart is with you. And Mazal Tov. Goodbye.
Go. Hi, David and Miriam. Mazel Tov. It's hard to believe that it's 50 years since we lived together in Washington Heights, and we remember your engagement, and remember your moving to Washington Heights and living together, but our relationship goes back generations. Thank God our parents and all the Dvoretsky's were friendly with our parents, and we attended so many of our simchas, and Benji's relationship with Sammy, who was best man at our wedding. So many wonderful relations, so many wonderful memories. We wish you all the mazel, bracha, nachas from your beautiful family. We're so happy that you fulfilled your life dream to live in Eretz Yisrael. We look forward to seeing you there soon, and hopefully someday joining you there soon. We wish you the best of mazel and bracha and everything good.
Shalom and mazel tov, Miriam and David. Wow, what a schus to be able to participate, to wish you guys mazel tov on this incredible milestone. My fondest memories go back to your courtship days when David was courting Miriam, and it was our schus to be an integral part of that process, be it in terms of part of the introduction and, more important, the going back and forth. And David, I forgive you with my whole heart. Believe me, with my whole heart, for the West Side Highway mishap. Most important, how proud I am to be considered a friend, to realize what you have accomplished over these 50 years. Bli ayin hara, ba'ufan klali, in terms of your magnificent work in Boston, ba'ufan prati, in terms of your beautiful family. HaKadosh Baruch Hu should keep bestowing upon the two of you hatzlacha and bracha. And to quote my wife, may we join you soon in Eretz HaKadosha. Mazel Tov again.
Miriam and David, mazel tov on your 50th wedding anniversary. Jenny asked me to share with you and the family memories of your wedding. The truth is, I remember the before the wedding and after the wedding much more than I remember the wedding itself. Before, what do I remember? That David was the only student, I think maybe ever, that called to invite me personally to come to the wedding. I was so moved that I left. We probably had 4 small children then, on a Sunday afternoon to go to this wedding at the end of the world. And then came the snowstorm, and we were there at the wedding. And I don't remember the wedding in detail. I'm sure it was wonderful and people were happy. And after the wedding, we came out. Our car was in the parking lot, and it was snowed in, and I don't remember what else. We left the car there. How we got home, I have no idea. The story was told next day that you came home in the subway. I don't know if that's true. And I think that it's better to come to a 50th anniversary than to go to a wedding, because you can look back and see the wonderful years you had together, the wonderful family that you have built. And I just want to thank you for your friendship over the years, which started that telephone call that 2 weeks before the wedding. And I hope we will continue to share simchas and family events for many years. Mazal tov.
Okay, I can't tell you how thrilled I was when Jenny emailed me and told me about this 50th anniversary party and asked me to talk a little bit about what I remember about her mother and her mother and father. So I'm delighted. Do know them a very long time, and certainly have a lot to say. If I'm saying too much, please feel free to edit it. Okay, so Miriam and David. First, let me talk about Miriam, because I know her a lot longer than I know David, and probably a lot better than I know David. Okay. My first meeting with Miriam was in Central, probably the first day of Central. You have to realize that I came to Central as a lone soldier, so to speak. I am probably the only person in the history of the Yeshiva of Brooklyn to ever have gone to Yeshiva University High School. So I really came into Central knowing no one. But as nervous as I was about that, I was very determined to go, and I was very fortunate that the group from the Yeshiva of Crown Heights, and it was a great group, decided to adopt me, and I became a part of that particular group. Now, but Miriam was kind of in a case by herself, because aside from being a graduate of the Yeshiva of Crown Heights, she was also the only person who lived really close to me in East Flatbush. She was the only other person who lived on that side of Kings Highway. I lived on East 53rd and Avenue D, and Miriam lived on East 51st and Avenue D. So our relationship became even more cemented than the general Crown Heights relationship. We would meet every morning and take the bus together, the Utica Avenue bus to Church Avenue. From Utica Avenue from Avenue D to Church, we were the only two on that bus to Central. Then we would get off at Church and meet the rest. And because of our proximity, we, even though I didn't start out in the A class, which in Central was like a big deal, because of course I came from Yeshiva Brooklyn. How could I start in the A class? I could only translate into Yiddish, but eventually I did make my way up there, or pretty quickly. Miriam and I became study buddies. We lived near each other. We were in the same class. We were both relatively bright, and we decided we're going to study together. That really cemented the relationship. But let me tell you about our study arrangements. We had a very interesting study arrangement. We would get together in either my house or Miriam's, usually Miriam's, because Miriam had, her basement was all hers. They had an upstairs and a downstairs, which the downstairs was the kids' bedrooms. But at that particular time, I think Ethel was married already, and the whole downstairs was really pretty much Miriam's. So more often than not, we would study in Miriam's house. And our arrangement was that we could only start to study on the half hour, which meant that if we met and it was 9:05, we couldn't start until 9:30. So from 9:05 to 9:30, we would talk. But once we got busy talking, if perchance it became 9:32, well, no, we can't start now. We can't start until 10 o'clock. I think you get the idea. So you see how much studying we accomplished and how much schmoozing we accomplished. And because of this interesting study arrangement, we usually wound up studying way into the middle of the night, like 2 in the morning, and one of us would have to walk home, and that was no big deal to walk 2 blocks alone at night in those days. It was great. We had fun. What we did was laugh. And in general, I just want to say that I loved coming to the Dvoretsky house. I felt very welcome. It was a very different setting than what I was used to. First of all, I walk in and Miriam's dad, the professor Joseph Dvoretsky, would call me Jaffe. That was his pet name for me, and the family kind of caught on. I was Jaffe. It was very exciting for me because, in all honesty, Miriam was my only American friend. Most of the girls I was friendly with were, like myself, children of Holocaust survivors. And we came from great families, but they were not American-style families. They had a very different culture. So when I came into the Dvoretsky home, it was a completely different culture. Miriam's dad was the dean of LIU. I always remember him walking around with some kind of book or some kind of sefer. I never saw Professor Dvoretsky without a book. I remember Miriam's mom playing the piano, and I remember sitting around the table and having all kinds of intellectual discussions, which I would try to participate in. Never felt that I was an equal participant, but it was just a very interesting home, and I think that Miriam found my home very interesting as well. Just for the opposite reasons, because of the European setting and the fact that we were a business-oriented family, and how my mother just loved to talk about clothing and what she was wearing, etc., things that weren't important in the Dvoretsky house. I felt very much at home in the Dvoretsky home, very much loved. And I think that Miriam could probably say the same thing about the Stern home. I think she was very popular with my family, and we enjoyed not only each other's company, but our family's company. So that's Miriam. Oh, no, there's one more piece. Miriam in high school. Miriam, or we, were products of the 60s. If you think back, the 60s, the look was the flip. And nobody had a more perfect flip than Miriam Dvoretsky. I don't know how she did it, but her flip was like perfect every single day. She was beautiful. She had beautiful blue eyes, the perfect flip, a beautiful smile. And I don't think she was even aware that, everybody wanted to have a flip like Miriam, but I don't think anybody else mastered it quite as well. But that's what was one of her outstanding characteristics in high school. Okay. So much for some of the family memories and some of the memories of Miriam herself. There was a lot more. I'm going to move on to Miriam and David, and the first time I met David and some of my thoughts. Okay, so David. David was, first of all, he walked in. David was very tall. He was tall. He was very good looking. He was a little bit cocky, I would say. Seemed very bright. And strange for me to say, he was in the YU Smicha program. And even though my son-in-law today is the Dean of REITs, at that time, I didn't know anybody in the YU Smicha program. So, seemed very, very impressive. Good match. Okay. So, as I said, though I did say that David was a little bit cocky, he very quickly had a very positive experience with him, which kind of dispelled that, or that worked in my favor. And I forever owe him for it. And about a month or so into having met David, I was in the middle of taking a very difficult course. Anyway, difficult for me. It was Philosophy 1.1. and had a very, very tough teacher. And I understood absolutely zero about what was going on in the class. And we were doing Descartes, something like I think, therefore I am. And we studied the whole works of Descartes. And I was totally befuddled. And I think that David had mentioned to me that he was a philosophy major. So I don't know how, because I didn't even know him that well at the time. I got up the guts to ask him. I was having a midterm. I really did not know what to do. And I was pretty used to getting good grades. I was pretty used to getting A's. I was really upset. So I asked him if maybe he would have the time to study with me. And he was really very nice about it. And he gave up almost a whole Sunday and went through Descartes with me. And I guess made it make more sense. I can't say I'm any expert on Descartes. And I went in to take the midterm exam the next day. And the exam was one question. Something like, I think, therefore I am. So what is, something like, so therefore if I am, what do I think? One question that was the entire exam. One philosophical question. And I looked at it and I started to write. And I wrote a lot. I always wrote a lot. I was a very fast writer and I wrote a lot. And I handed in my exam. In the end, I got back the exam and I got the only A+ in the class. I was shocked. As I said, I had no idea what I was writing. I was just writing. Whatever David had taught me, that's what I was writing. And when I came back afterwards and I showed David the question, the exam, and he read my paper, he looked at me and he said, "Hey, how did you think of that answer?" And I said, "I don't know. I mean, I guess I thought it was the stuff you had taught me." But when he said that, I guess I sort of got the feeling, well, maybe he's not so cocky. Maybe he doesn't think I'm that big an idiot. And first of all, I was forever grateful for the A+, and it sort of changed my vision of him and all the time that he spent with me and how much he helped me out. So, David, thank you. Okay, after that, they moved on to Boston, Harvard no less. We didn't expect anything less of them. It seemed to be a natural path for them. They just seemed like the right type, and we knew that they would succeed, and they did. They did, of course, succeed, and we stayed friends. Gee, when we heard they were moving to Harvard, I kind of said, "Oh, Bert, you think they'll ever talk to us again?" And yes, they did. They did, and it's been many years. And we've stayed friends, and even if we don't see each other all the time, we really do feel very close. Let me tell you about the wedding now for a minute. Okay, the wedding. The wedding was beautiful. It was an absolutely beautiful wedding. It was in Kingsway Jewish Center. And it was held 1 week after I came back from Israel. I was studying a Machon Gold for a little over half a year. It was on a scholarship from TIW. And I came home, and a week later, it was Miriam's wedding. It was very exciting, very, very beautiful. And Miriam looked absolutely stunning. She was a beautiful bride. And I recall that I was very impressed with how she looked, and I loved her headpiece. I thought it was the most gorgeous headpiece I had ever seen. But of course, it looked great on Miriam. Anyway, I was determined that when I got married, and I got married a year later, I wanted that headpiece that looked very much like that, which in the end, I did get something extremely similar. I don't want to tell you what it looked like on me, but it looked gorgeous on Miriam. I don't think it was my finest moment, but as I said, she was a beautiful bride, great wedding, very fond memories. I just want to say that over the years, not only have we stayed friendly, but we're very, very happy that our children have become friendly. First it was Jenny and Mashi in Mechlala, through Mechlala. Then it was also Jenny and Donnie and Mashi and Adam and Adina and Mark. And really the feeling of the fact that this is a friendship that's spanning generations is really very exciting for us. I know I've done most of the talking, and that's kind of the way it usually is around here, but Bert has one specific story that I think he wants to tell about David.
Well, it's an interesting footnote to history. When we were engaged, I got the opportunity to meet Yaffa's friends and married friends, particularly, and she was quite anxious to meet Miriam and David Shapiro. Well, the name David Shapiro didn't really ring a bell because there are probably at least 400,000 David Shapiros in the New York area. And lo and behold, when I walked in to meet them, it was the David Shapiro that I knew for many years. David was a visiting student in New York City and used to stay for many Shabbosim at relatives in Far Rockaway, where I live. And I was traveling back and forth first to RJJ and a high school and then to City College. And very frequently, I would share the ride with David Shapiro. We got to know each other quite well over the years. So I was not being introduced to a stranger as advertised. And an interesting trip that will forever remain in both David's memory and mine. I came on a Friday afternoon, sat down in the A train right next to David, and he didn't look too happy. And what's wrong? He said, President Kennedy was just shot. So we will forever remember that shared moment in history, and we'll catalog along with the many pleasant memories that we have of our years-long friendship, and especially a highlight of our visit together in Israel 2 years ago. Many Mazel Tovs. Just keep in mind, the first 50 years are the hardest.
Okay, in closing, I just want to say, Miriam and David, I think you've done the Dworetskys proud. And it's a pleasure to celebrate this moment with you. We hope to share many, many more smachot together. We love you, and we very much value this wonderful friendship. You're fun people, and you're quality people.
בואי בשלום, עטרת בעלה, גם ברינה ובצהולה, תוך אמונה לים סגולה. בואי בשלום, בואי בשלום, עטרת בעלה, גם ברינה